Tampa Bay Rowdies, who have made a huge upset.
Your 2021 Eastern Conference champion.
A chance play to go! Oh, that is a delicious goal for Tampa Bay.
And now, you're tuned into Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
Hello, everyone out there in Tampa Bay and beyond. This is James Mills coming at you for the RBLR Sports podcast. I am here tonight to cover the Rowdies. I am here tonight with my co-host, Carlos. But, Carlos, it's not just us tonight.
What?
Who else could be joining? Not our producer, Eureka.
What?
Neither of our writers, Connor nor Parker. Instead,
What?
we are having a former Rowdy on the podcast tonight to talk about not only, obviously, what he's doing, but he is here to give us some insight into, hopefully, what the team is like right now and kind of tell us what he thinks, obviously, from a little bit of an outsider's perspective, because he's not in the locker room now, but he has been in that locker room. He knows what it's like. So Sebastian Dalgaard will be joining us tonight. We're going to try and get through our review and our preview and a little bit less time in this one so that we can do that. But yeah, Carlos, let's hop in real quick. How are you doing this night on a Monday evening, as opposed to our usual Tuesday?
Yeah, we're recording this on Monday because, James, like you said, we had a great conversation to share with all of you with our, can I call him a friend? Is that fun? Is that cool?
I think that's fair.
Our friend Sebastian Dalgaard, legend, absolute beast of a wingback for this squad. Scored some bangers from his side of the field on this Rowdies in this Rowdies club, and up to some fun stuff in the coaching world. Now we'll talk all about that with him later on. So yeah, great perspective from him. I'm excited to have him on in a little bit. I'm good. Tough result this weekend. And I'll share my opinions, I think, in just a little bit. But sneak peek. Not much reason to panic in my eye, but I'll save it for in a little bit. Other than that, I'm good. This will be going out tomorrow. I'm actually starting today is my first day of law school on Monday, August 24th, which is crazy. And I have my first class after we finish recording this. So that'll be fun. So if anybody wants to talk about torts, let me know. So busy evening for me. I'm excited. I'm excited to talk to Seb. I'm excited to go to school again, and get things going and hopefully get things back on track, so to speak, for the Rowdies this weekend away to Pittsburgh, which we'll also talk about, condensed version. James, how are you? Everything good?
I am doing well. I traveled with the Heat Wave supporters group to see the Tampa Bay Sun this weekend take on Sporting Jacks. Unfortunately, it was a loss. Sporting Jacks are quite good on the women's side, as opposed to everybody who knows them from the USL Championship, where they're not so good. But the Sun are hopefully going to play a little bit better this year than they did this past season. It's still very early. It's only the second game overall, obviously. So it's a little hard to take the temperature of things, and we're just going to hope for the best. It was a fun weekend regardless.
But by the way, since we're going to kind of run through this and we probably won't do too much of an extra time, I just want to share this in here before I forget. You mentioned Sporting Jacks, awful on the men's side, not so on the women's side. On the men's side, they got their first away win ever this past weekend, away to Birmingham, which is funny in of itself, that they won a game, and I think they got to double digits finally, right? More importantly, I saw a hilarious tweet from Timothy Bellin. You saw this? He covers the Legion for Birmingham Sport. I saw it on Twitter. He goes, "There will be no post-game press conference following Legion's loss to Jacksonville. The team is currently in the locker room, from where I heard someone shouting, and have been told they are watching back the entire game clip by clip."
That's nuts.
10:46 p.m. the day of the game. So that's hilarious. Birmingham Legion struggling, which is good because we play them in the next few weeks as well. Hopefully we can take advantage of that. But I guess congrats to the Jacksonville men's side for getting their first away win, and actually kind of an entertaining game. It was the last kick of the game, the corner kick. They were able to win it. And Birmingham apparently was sitting in the locker room rewatching the entire game right after. Hilarious. I had to share that. I thought that was like the funniest story in USL this weekend. Okay, let's just jump into it, James. We have lots to talk about. We're going to condense it so we can jump to Seb here. Last week, Rowdies lost to Detroit City, but the good news, there's always another game, unless we're in the playoffs, in which case there might not be.
Right.
We play this weekend against Pittsburgh. We'll be away 5 p.m. Eastern kickoff on ESPN+. Like and subscribe to this podcast on YouTube. Subscribe to us wherever you're getting your podcasts. And follow us at RBLR Sports on all the social medias. Give us a follow. Let's talk content. Let's talk Rowdies. Let's talk, I don't know, whatever else is happening in the broader world of USL, like Birmingham Legion rewatching their entire game right after they lost. James, let's jump into this game against Detroit. There's a little bit to talk about here. So I'll just jump in with a quick recap of what actually happened. In net, no surprise, Molly Waite got the start once again in front of a packed crowd at Detroit City. Another sellout for them. Great atmosphere, right in the middle.
It always is. We know that.
Yeah, right in the middle of a neighborhood in the suburbs of Detroit. Hilarious setup. It's funny. It's cool. Good for them. Antley was on the back line with Bartlow, Dos Santos, and Ostrom. Started off as a back four. We'll talk about how maybe it shifted into like a back three, back five in the second half, and Schneider dropped into that other center back role in the second half. But in the first half, at least, Schneider was in the midfield with Hilton and Dolabella, with Perez and Cicerone out wide and Myers up top. All that happened in this game was a first half goal for Detroit.
Yeah.
A number of subs came in for the Tampa Bay Rowdies. Dominic Casciato tried to make some moves, but we weren't able to get that one back. It was a really, really impressive finish, honestly, from Detroit's Diouf in the 37th minute. Lovely finish. Good for him. Not good for the Rowdies. It kind of came out of nowhere, and we'll talk about that in a second. And that was all there was to it. Rowdies lose this one 1-0 away to Detroit, and get actually their first away loss of the year on their record. Pretty crazy to think about that. We only have 9 games left, and we just lost our first away game. In the East, the Rowdies are still 9 points clear. Detroit made up a little bit of ground. They're on 35 points while we're on 44. Pittsburgh on 33. Battery on 33 for now. Louisville City on 31 points. We say Battery on 33 for now. Is that they were the ones that had a game postponed?
Yes, they are actually playing tonight, so they might not be on 33 points when you hear this podcast, depending on exactly when it comes out. Hopefully, they still are on 33
Hopefully they
points,
are.
but we'll see.
Yeah, those delays can really shake up, what would otherwise be a pretty straightforward game for them. So hopefully, I believe it's Miami they're playing, right?
I think so, yeah.
Hopefully they can get a result against Battery for us. Out west, New Mexico is on 34 points, but keep in mind that they have 3 games in hand for whatever reason. Really strange. So assume they win all 3. I don't know if that's the case, but just pretend they do. They would only be 1 point behind us once they make up those games. So that large gap can shrink pretty quickly for New Mexico.
Right.
Thankfully, Loudoun helped us out just a little bit by keeping them to a draw here in Loudoun County, Virginia, this weekend. Orange County is on 34 points. El Paso on 34. Tulsa 32. San Antonio 32. Sacramento 31. Lexington 31. Pretty tight race at the top of the Western Conference. But again, keep in mind New Mexico's 3 games in hand over the majority of these squads. Okay, let's talk about this Detroit game because that is important. It is relevant to the reason why we do this podcast. And we'll try and keep it relatively quick. I think the big question for me, James, is whether there was anything to be concerned about for the last 9 games.
Mm-hmm.
There's the summary of this game was that we didn't do a lot in the attack at all. Is that something to be concerned about going forward, or is it a one-off case of playing away to Detroit where it's always pretty tough to play? I think that's kind of like the main question here. I don't think you really lose a lot of ground either with thinking about New Mexico or against any of the Eastern Conference teams. Obviously, you still lead by 9 in the East for that first seed. So I think the bigger question is kind of thinking ahead of, is there anything to be concerned about here? Because that was the game, right? I mean,
even if you just go back to rewatch the highlights afterwards, the Rowdies are on there, but it's mostly defensively.
Yeah. It's very strange matchup. I was pretty impressed with our defensive look. I mean, I think even when Detroit had a lot of the ball, we looked pretty comfortable defensively. We were structured. I didn't have a problem with anything in the back line, considering that Detroit actually has a pretty impressive attack. They're one of their best attacking pieces back this week in Darren Smith, and he was virtually absent from this game, in my opinion. Their goal came off of a one-off chance. It was a great dribble from Diouf, who kind of had a very individual effort and made it happen for Detroit, unfortunately. They had a couple other good looks. It was a really feisty game. But I think if you were looking at this game expecting a shootout or just an incredible quality game between the two best teams in the Eastern Conference in the table, you probably didn't get that.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. It was gritty. It was very physical. It was very chippy, like very chippy. Especially looking on that left side of the Rowdies field, Ostrom was like saying something to Cedeno and Yamazaki to get them riled up the entire game. Funnily enough, they cut to Ostrom and Yamazaki like looking, very civilized and okay and hugging it out after the game, which I think is very professional from both of them and respectable. But that was the game. It was just really, really chippy. There wasn't a lot of opportunity for either team, but there was certainly maybe a little bit more for Detroit than there was for this Rowdies squad. Okay, that's, I think, the summary of this one. Defensively, liked it. I think Bartlow looks pretty comfortable now at this point, which is nice to see because it seems like he might be featured in that back line going forward.
Yes.
But to my question, do you have anything you want to be a little bit concerned about here? Thinking ahead to Pittsburgh next week, thinking ahead to the last 9 games of the season, is the attack struggling, or is this a Detroit away one-off?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is mostly down to Detroit being a good team and especially being a good team in their home arena. I mean, it's hard to call that a stadium and a field, right? It's just it's kind of a rug out in a former brickyard. It almost looks like. I mean, there's history there. I don't want to knock that. Detroit City legitimately have a pretty good thing going on. But I will be very excited, especially to play Detroit City when they are in their new stadium when that opens up, because this is we definitely always have trouble here, and that's what a home advantage is supposed to be. To be fair again to Detroit City, but it is really kind of nasty to play there. It's not the nicest field. And Carlos, to say or to go along with what you were just talking about, we need to worry a little bit about the field with Pittsburgh in kind of the same way. It is narrow. It is turf. It's it's turf that isn't like sawed over a baseball field like we've seen before, but it's still not the same playing surface that the Rowdies are used to. That's an excuse that we can offer up, and I don't think the team wants that. I don't think the team wants excuses here. They're going to be mad at their attacking performance for sure. But what I would point to in this case is, I don't think that this is something that is a long-term problem. I think that we have done pretty well in the attacking sense over the last month or two. And that's despite all of the issues that we've seen with injuries and with players coming in and out because of those injuries and all of that good stuff. So, with the size of the roster that we've had, with the depth of players in the different positions that Dominic Casciato would like to have us playing in, Evan Conway and Louis Perez have started at different points over the season. And then Pedro Dolabella has come in and out of the starting lineup. Those are a couple of guys who have been more recently heavily involved. And I think that if for whatever reason they aren't working out, which again, this is just the one game, we can kind of switch back to a couple of the other guys who were playing more frequently beforehand. There are a lot of players who are still out there. Russell Cicerone was a wider player when we started the season.
Yeah.
MD Myers, he came in. Gino Vivi hasn't gotten a ton of time. Marco Micheletto has been starting a couple of games recently. So yeah, there are players that we can bring in if we need to. But again, I don't even think that we need to jump the gun there. I think that this is just playing away to Detroit. Let's not let it happen again against Pittsburgh, even though the pitfalls are the same and they're right there. But yeah, that's kind of where I am on that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think your point's right. That the major thing about this field is going to carry into the Pittsburgh game as well. So hopefully we're kind of warmed up for that going into next week. I guess that could be a benefit of playing this game, right before playing Pittsburgh. But yeah, I don't know. I obviously didn't love the game. It was fine, right? It was whatever. It is a loss. It's a first away loss. I said that it's the first loss that we've had that I'm like fine, quote unquote, taking. We've had unexpected wins that we don't typically have in a season away to tough places this season. And then we've kind of randomly lost those games against Lexington in ugly fashion and Hartford in ugly fashion, both at home. 2 games that you would typically expect the team to win. This is the first of these 3 losses this season where I'm like, yeah, I mean, going into this one, you could probably see the writing on the wall potentially for a loss here, especially with Detroit not really being on our tail necessarily in the table, but being towards the top of the Eastern Conference standings.
Yeah.
And wanting to have that statement win at home against the best team in the league, right? Not that we weren't up for it, because I certainly think we were. It's easy to get up for a game in the atmosphere where they're kind of right on top of you. But maybe that's part of it too, right? Detroit's just like playing with even more fire in front of that crowd, in front of the league watching this game, right? Understanding that it's a matchup between 2 top teams, and maybe just wanting to send a message to the rest of the league and the conference, right? So yeah, I think in that sense, we can explain the loss with a couple different ways. But I'm not really concerned going forward, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seemed like it was an ugly game that Detroit was slightly more comfortable playing.
Slightly, yeah.
Because they were at home, because they play that field regularly, right? I think our back line was great. Just going forward, we know why we want to avoid playing away games in the playoff, right? Like
exactly.
This is why you finish in the top of the table in the Eastern Conference and hopefully in the league as a whole, because you don't want to play in fields like that where that can be a factor.
Yeah.
And with how we've played this year, a lot of wide play as we typically do, it's not a field conducive for that.
No.
At all. And Pittsburgh won't be either. So maybe we learn our lesson and kind of adjust some things up top.
Yeah,
but again,
that's a good way actually to look at it too. Is we have the 1-2 test in that kind of sense, and hopefully we have learned those lessons to put us right for next week, this upcoming week.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, defensively, I thought we looked not just fine. I thought we looked really good. I was happy with it. I like Bartlow being in there, getting significant minutes. I think he'll be a big factor going forward.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I don't like losing, but I really didn't hate this game by any means, honestly. So I don't like just like saying any loss is just like a throwaway game, because it's not. Like we can't, like we said that about Lexington, and we kind of said that about Hartford as well. So I don't know if I want to call this game a throwaway game. It was a loss. Like maybe we got slightly outplayed. But I don't think it's a problem going forward. I think we're all right. But again, this is why you finish top of the table. You don't want to play games away to Detroit or any other weird field like Pittsburgh or any of the number of baseball fields that make up the Western Conference, right? Like, finish at the top of the table. Maybe you see New Mexico in the final, and hopefully you finish ahead of them so you don't have to play on their baseball field either, right?
Yeah.
It's weird. It's weird. I would have loved to get the team's thoughts like after this game if we were over there.
Right. Yeah.
Like I wonder what they would have to say about the post game or about like kind of debriefing what happened. Because Dominic Cacciato is not going to like say, like you said, it's the field's fault, right? Like Detroit's just an ugly place to play, and it is. Like that's true. So I would have loved to hear what he has to say about like tactically, like what maybe went wrong. But in the second half, you'll notice that, like I said, the formation changed up slightly at several points in the second half. It looked a little different. Like it looked like Max Schneider was definitely like another center back. I think we got into the attack a bit more in the second half too, but I think it also might have been just because Detroit started to sit back and defend the one.
Right. Yeah. And they love that. They love that.
Yeah, that's how they played. I mean, Detroit plays that way. They're a very good team defensively. One of the best in the conference in the league. Very, very solid, especially in their field where they know how to play. To the keeper's credit, Herrera had an incredible save right at the end. Henderlong was probably deserved a goal there to make that game 1-1. But really, really, really impressive save from Herrera to make sure the game stayed 1-0 in favor of Detroit. And that was the difference, really. I mean, there was a couple chances for both teams. Detroit capitalized on one of theirs, and the Rowdies unfortunately weren't able to in the second half with their very limited chances. But man, it would have been a beautiful finish from Henderlong. Shout out to Akoff. He came in the second half, and I think made a big difference in our ability to get down the field. He was pretty impressive. So yeah, I think there's some positives here, particularly with how structured we looked defensively. I liked it. But I think we just move ahead, look to Pittsburgh, and try and take some of the lessons of what went wrong on this narrow ass field and take it to Pittsburgh and figure it out for there.
Yeah.
You don't want to use that excuse in like back-to-back weeks.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's fine for one. And Pittsburgh is certainly a very, very good team as well. They're in pretty good form. We'll talk about them in a sec, but I think it's a pretty big game next week to make sure you don't kind of have a little bit of a slide at this point in the year.
Right.
So we'll see. Anything else to talk about with Detroit, or do you want to jump ahead?
Well, I mean, obviously, like we said, there probably is more, but we do, unfortunately, for this one, we actually do need to keep things a little bit shorter. So I'm just going to jump in with my man of the match here.
Yeah.
And I agree with you generally on how they played defensively. And the only issue that I had, obviously, they gave up a goal. Makes sense. But there was one player who was on the defensive line that was not involved in the goal at all. So I'm going to effectively give him a shutout, and that's Nathan Dos Santos. So Nathan Dos Santos is my man of the match for this game. That's, not the best reasoning, but the defense was good, and he did not have a play in the Rowdy, or a hand, I should say, in the Rowdies giving up a goal. So there you go. Yeah. Carlos?
I'm going to go Max Schneider just because, again, he was somebody involved with the back line, and I think he's just so impressive with his ability to kind of rotate between different positions. And in this game, 2 different positions in the course of the game, like at multiple different points, he was both a center midfielder, and then 5 minutes later, he was a center back, depending on the moment in the game. Really fascinating. He was great. He's also fought Mob's man of the match for the Rowdies, so I'm glad the numbers agree with me. He was solid once again. So I think it's a good pick for me. And he's been a beast all season, so good for him. Okay, that's Detroit. Like we said, we're keeping it kind of quick so we can talk to Seb Dalgaard and not keep you here for like 3 hours. Let's jump ahead and talk about Pittsburgh Riverhounds this weekend, right after I tell you to check out the shop.rblrsports.com website, because liking and subscribing to the podcast, it's free and you should do that. But if you want to support us just a little bit more, you can go ahead and check out the website and find some cool new threads, get yourself some new gear for all your 10-base sports squads. go to the shop.rblrsports.com website and use promo code COYR for 10% off everything on the site. Okay, James, let's talk about Pittsburgh. We'll be away this weekend, a slightly different kickoff time, 5 p.m. In the Iron City. That sounds like Cold War Soviet Union, like the Steel City. That's what it is. Right on the river there in downtown. Pittsburgh is in great form, James. They are sitting in fourth place in the table. It'll be a tough matchup. They're unbeaten in 4. You noted something I think very, very important. They have a midweek game away to El Paso. What did we just say before we started recording, James? This travel's crazy in the league.
Yep.
This league is crazy for travel. That's a long trip. And they're going to have to come back and just a couple of days later play against, I would say, the best team in the league, right? Hopefully that's a factor. That's not a game that if you're Pittsburgh, you take lightly. El Paso is in first place in the West. I'm sure they want to have a good showing over there. It's also a late kickoff, like for our standards, 9 p.m. kickoff Eastern time. I think that could benefit us by the time we get to Saturday. They're going to play a lot of their key players if they want to result in El Paso. So I'm fascinated about who they actually throw out there. Because if they go with starters for both of these games, like there's going to be some tired legs. It's just that's how it's going to be. I think maybe we can take advantage of that despite the very narrow field. James, do you want to take us through who some of those starters might be?
Yes, absolutely. So Nico Campuzano, if you are Spanish, is likely to start in net behind somebody that Carlos knows, Max Vieira. Victor Souza. Yeah, Victor Souza, Owen McCoy, and Lassie Kelp are likely to start alongside him at the back. A possible midfield of Elliot Goldthorpe, Jackson Valty, Danny Griffin, and Sam Bassett, with other options like Robbie Mertz available. Obviously, if you know the USL Championship, you know Robbie Mertz. He's a guy who's been around the league for a very long time now, and another player that has been a thorn in our side in the past. Trevor Amon and Albert Dikwa are likely to start up top, or most likely to start up top. Again, there has been a fair bit of rotation recently, so just keep that in mind. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but that is the most likely option in my opinion. Yeah. They have 6 goals each. That is Amon and Dikwa. So, those are 2 good players. We have known that about Dikwa for almost as long as we've known that about Robbie Mertz. Yeah. Right back, Perrin Barnes has 4 assists, and he actually leads the team overall. Barnes, Mertz, and Bassett are the creators, all of which most likely will come from out wide. So that's where Pittsburgh, tend to create, but they're obviously always going to be strong defensively, and they're going to probably try and beat us on the counter with these types of players being involved in those actions. And just remember, again, this has been an awful pitch for us in the past, and it's probably going to be some type of factor. We don't know what, but some type of factor in this one.
Absolutely. Yeah, this place is always hard for us to play. In our matchups with Pittsburgh, we only won once away to Pittsburgh, and it was that famous 5-2 win back in 2022. James, I think I asked you this last time when we talked about Pittsburgh away. Can you remember any of the goal scorers in 2022 in that crazy game?
Don't offhand, but I know we did this before, and I named better than none, but yeah, I can't remember now.
The most random one I'll give a shout to is Kyle Gregg, who scored in the 15th minute.
There we go.
Their start that game. He started that game. Crazy. Anyway, that was our only time winning in Highmark Stadium. It's tough, obviously, by nature of as our history there shows. We've played there 10 times, drawn 4 times, and lost 5. This will be a tough game. Obviously, this is one of the best Rowdy squads we've had in the modern era. We're playing against a very good Pittsburgh team that, like Detroit, is very good defensively. I think that's where they make their money in this league. They're incredibly solid defensively. They score a decent amount of goals in relative to other squads in the Eastern Conference, but their 24 goals scored in 21 games puts them kind of in the middle of the pack. It's their defense, 21 goals conceded in 21 games. that has carried them into a top 4 spot. Shout out to Max Vieira, absolute beast. Love that kid. He's a great guy. And it was awesome seeing him debut at Al Lang Stadium in the opening game this year. You'll recall we beat Pittsburgh already 3-0 this year at Al Lang. So hopefully we can repeat that. I love Max, but I hope he doesn't have his best game this weekend, because when he's on fire on the wing. He's solid. We can cause our boys some problems. Fortunately, maybe fortunately, the narrowness of the field doesn't really allow him to, I think, show his full talent. So hopefully we can keep him in front of us and prevent any sort of aggressive counterattack that'll expose our back line. But we'll see. I think it'll be a very, very cagey affair. I think the stats will be similar to the Detroit game, if I had to guess, by nature of the field and by nature of how similar I think Pittsburgh is to Detroit in the numbers and the stats, at least. But we will certainly see. Hopefully we've learned our lesson away to Detroit and maybe figured some things out. All that being said, James, any predictions?
Yes, we do have almost all of our predictions. At the moment, we do not have our writer Parker's prediction, but we do have our writer Connor's prediction, if I can get that out of my mouth. It's 0-0 draw for Connor. Now, Carlos, this appears to be a relatively popular result. I have gone with a 2-2 draw, and you have gone with?
I'm going with a 1-1 draw. I wouldn't hate it. I'd love to win over there, obviously, but considering that we've only won once in Pittsburgh in 10 games, even with some of our best teams between 2021 and 2022, it's hard. It's a hard place to play. It really is. I will say we talked about how young our team is and how they've played in League One and in the college game, and they're used to playing in awful fields. So maybe not as much a factor anymore with this young team that we have. But it affects the way you want to play the game. It just does. They're very solid defensively, both the Rowdies and Pittsburgh. So I'm predicting a low-scoring affair of 1-1. And if anybody does win, it'll be like Detroit. It'll be 1-0 either way.
Yeah. Speaking of wins, our producer Eureka has gone with a 1-0 win, just like you said. So that kind of tracks. All right, Carlos. With that out of the way, I think we should do our job here and get into, letting the real guy talk, the guy who knows what he's talking about. I
know what I'm talking about.
Let's get into our conversation with Sebastian Dalgaard and let him give his opinion on this season. And here we are with our interview with Sebastian Dalgaard. We have been trying to set this up, and Seb, I want to apologize first because we had set this up for a couple of weeks in a row and then obviously unable to complete it with different things over the weeks. But you stuck with us and you finally were able to, we were able to reach you and get the schedule sorted out. So again, appreciate your patience on that. Thank you for joining us. We love having you on because you are someone who, you're very good to talk to about the Tampa Bay Rowdies, and you offer a perspective as a current coach. So I think that's going to be really good. As Carlos said before we started recording, we like to pretend like we know what we're talking about, but I think that professional soccer players are probably a little bit better attuned to what's going on the field and maybe in the locker room as well. So yeah, anyway, all of that out of the way. Thank you for joining us today.
Of course, thank you guys for having me. And I know it's been tough to find the date to get on the podcast, but I've been busy, like you said, with my own coaching down at IMG. It's preseason down there, so awesome. Trying to figure out everything, new players, new style of play, new formations, everything. So it's been a lot, but I'm pleased to be on here. And I think you guys know a lot more about the game than you guys give yourself credit for. At the end of the day, it's also a game of opinions, right? So it's not really.
Yeah. Well, that means more to us, and I think you would understand. So I appreciate that. And on that topic, I know, and again, thanks for making time to join us. I know you said you've been super busy. I think it would be a great place to start. Obviously, we talked right before the season started. Last year, we talked right before the season started, and I think last year what we talked about was trying to do like a mid-season check-in.
Yeah.
Things didn't go so well last year. I don't think anybody really wanted to talk more about what was happening on the field. This time, a lot more fun, going on in the Rowdies from top to bottom. Got around to, this check-in with you a little bit past the midway point, certainly kind of probably at the last third of the season. But still great that you were able to make time for us. So I appreciate that. On the topic of you being super busy, we talked about your coaching last time you were on here. Do you want to share a little bit about what you've been up to recently, mentioning that you're in the midst of a new preseason? Just any other updates going on in that world and your coaching life?
Yeah, I mean, we finished the season. What was that? It was in June, and then we went straight into summer camp down at IMG. We have thousands and thousands of players coming into IMG for summer camp. Wanted to train, wanted to be recruited. They want to get a little bit of a taste of the resources and the high level training that we have down at IMG. So my role during the summertime is honestly straight from the season, straight into being a coordinator at camp. Helping out sort the teams for IMG and the levels, because people come with all sorts of different levels. Some played soccer for a month, and some have played since they were 5 years old. So there's a big mix match in the level. So it's all about just getting the best experience for the kids, and then recruiting as many as the talented players that we can find down there. And so it's a lot of work connecting with the players, evaluating them, figuring out how they can fit in at IMG, and then obviously contacting their parents and talking about going to a boarding school in Florida. Many of them come from different places than Florida, and there's obviously a big price tag hanging on to joining IMG Academy. So it's a lot of work, but I'm very happy with everything that happened during the summer. I was able to get 5-6 players, which have a really, really good level to play MLS Next at the under 16 age group. So all in all, it's been a very successful summer, but it's certainly a lot of work.
Yeah. I can only imagine. Well, let me ask you one more thing about the academy level here, because honestly, that's very interesting, I think, for Carlos and myself before we even get to the Rowdies. But
Sure.
yeah, what is the outlook for the IMG U16s in MLS Next? Like how do you feel coming into this season coming up here, and where the competition is around your geographical area as well?
Well, Florida is a very, very strong conference. It's just strong for soccer in general in Florida. I think there's a good culture around it with a lot of Hispanics, and I think it's just everybody has kind of taken in that the whole soccer world in Florida in some sort of way. There's beautiful grass fields everywhere. It's just there's a nice environment for it here. So we play some really, really strong teams in our conference. We play also Orlando City, Inter Miami, Western FC is also a very strong team. I've led them. There's a lot of Miami teams that are very, very strong. And I think IMG in general has been not so dominant in the youth soccer in the previous years. I think it's been a little bit up and down. There's obviously sometimes you get some generations that are really, really strong. But I think in the past 2-3 years at IMG, we have really created this professional environment out there and really gotten coaches in there that knows what they're doing and really wants to take it to the next level. And I think that's what we're starting to see with our players and the way they compete in this conference. Because my first year was not necessarily like successful in any way. I learned a lot as a coach. Second year or last season we played was a battle in the first semester, but really got around it second semester and beat a lot of the teams that we lost to in the first half of the year. So I was very, very pleased with it. And it's just like, if you want to coach soccer and you want to go to the next level, it's just 24/7. Like, you're just constantly thinking about the game. You're constantly thinking about ways to improve yourself, improve your players, finding new processes to put in place to help educate the players about the game, because I think that's probably the most important. Like, they come with different technical qualities, physical qualities, but I think in general, we need to change that culture and that education about the game from when they're very, very young. So when they come up to my age, they're already kind of ready to break into the senior levels in some sort of way. And I don't think that we are necessarily there yet. I would say in the US, if you're 16, 17 years old, you're still fairly young. And I think most people will say you have plenty of time to figure out if you were going to play professional, college, whatever. But in Europe, it's a different case of like being 16, 17 years old. You should be connected to some sort of first team place or first team soccer somewhere. So there's definitely still ways to go, but I think it's really, really progressing down at IMG, and we're looking at some strong teams. I think we had 7 teams make it to the playoffs in Utah, MLS next playoffs, which is a new record for IMG.
Nice.
So, yeah, we're certainly getting after it down there.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So James and I loved talking about the youth kind of atmosphere in the Tampa Bay area, because it feels like there's so much activity, and this is anecdotal more than anything. It's not like I have stats to back this, but after the World Cup especially, right, it feels like there's a lot more energy around, the U.S. as a whole, and the conversations around youth development in the game and what that looks like ideally going forward.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
So it's really interesting that kind of you're in the middle of that at a really great, very professional type of system at IMG. James and I were just talking about some players from the Rowdies that have made it overseas now, and Endry Mustali scored a couple goals the other day coming from the Tampa Bay area. Christian Ortiz, I think he's in college soccer, but you have other guys like.
Yeah, I just met him at IMG the other day, actually. Christian.
Really?
Yeah, he was with South Georgia or something.
South Carolina is where he's.
South Carolina, yeah, there it is. Okay.
Yeah. What are some other names I'm missing, James, from the Rowdies youth soccer? You have Santi
There's,
Castaneda, in Germany, Tate Johnson killing it. So I think it's fascinating how this has been a very recent endeavor for the Rowdies, right? There's already so many names off the top of your head that we can think of that have just made waves.
What a fantastic story with Santi. So
yeah,
like being with him at the Rowdies when he was a young kid, and obviously figuring things out at the Rowdies level, professional level, and not seeing so many minutes on the field, but just working his ass off in training, and just being a young kid at that time. We had no idea how far he could take it, right? We could see that he had potential and he was a talented young player, but to make it all the way to, they're in the Bundesliga now, right? They got
I
watched that game. Okay.
I think any Rowdies fans listening to this are probably sicko enough to know everything about the Santi Castaneda story. For anybody who might not remember, Santi Castaneda played a couple games with the Rowdies in 2022, was on an academy contract, made it to a Duisburg, I think is the team of the 3rd division. Eventually made a hop over to Paderborn and helped them get promoted last year to the Bundesliga. So incredible stuff from there.
Yeah, playing the whole game, being a leader on the field, and just working his ass off, making impactful plays on the field was just wow. Time goes fast, Things can change over in like 2-3 years. All of a sudden, you are playing Bundesliga, right? Like it's
so crazy. Take away from that incredible amounts of talent in the Tampa Bay area, and I think that's why James and I love hearing about all the developments happening at the youth level, particularly from former Rowdies players like yourself, a number of which are involved in coaching around here in the Bay Area, which is fascinating. Okay, great update. Youth soccer, always things happening. James, unless there's anything else you wanted to touch on in the youth game at the moment, should we hop over to the 2026 Tampa Bay Rowdies?
Yeah, I think that is a really good topic right now, because they're also, speaking of how things can change, there was obviously a lot of change going on between last season and this season. So let's get into it.
Yeah. So Seb, I think we could just kind of start with going back to our conversation before the season started. We talked about the change, right? There was a lot of roster turnover and not a lot of guys returning. As the season progressed, we would actually learn of a former teammate of yours making it back to the Rowdies and Connor Antley. So a little bit of familiarity coming back into this team. But for the vast majority of the squad, new players, new stories fans had to get to learn. New coach, obviously, in Dominic Casciato, who introduced himself last year. Just before we talk about the season as a whole, as a former player, can you share any perspective about how challenging it can be to go into a new locker room where there are maybe 1 or 2 other guys you might know out of past playing history, whether it's another league or another country, or in some of the cases for our guys now, college soccer, when you essentially know nobody, you're building a new roster. How difficult can it be to build the chemistry? And then maybe we'll talk about why this team was able to do it so quickly, just from the outside perspective. But as a former player, what do you think on that?
Yeah, I mean, big credit to Dom, Coach Dom, for obviously I can only imagine how much time he puts into this. And it's 24/7. I'm very, very sure of that he's just thinking about how he can connect with the players, make them work harder, make them think about the game and the way that he thinks about the game, and get everybody on the same page. It's just time. Like it takes a lot of time. So big credit to Dom for being able to do that, because it definitely shows on the field at the moment. But no, it can be very tough to join a new team, any team, anywhere you go. You're obviously welcomed by a lot of guys that has the exact same passion as you, that wants to get to the same goals as you. They want to win as much as possible. But you're also in direct competition with most of them, right? For spots, playing time, or whatever it is. So it can be very, very tough to be new, and people are going to look at you like, oh, this guy is coming in to kind of take my spot away from me. Right. So you got to be built for it, and you got to have this kind of chemistry with your teammates about, yeah, I'm going to push you every single day on the field. I might not be the nicest guy to you, but off the field and in the locker room, we got to figure out how we can progress together and help each other out. So it's very, very tough, and especially for guys that maybe are not used to the USL Championship and has played in different leagues. The soccer is just so much more physical, and it's so intense over here. You'll play against some of the fastest players. I've played against some of the fastest, most physical players in this league than I did it ever in Denmark or anywhere else. So it takes time to kind of build that chemistry, the culture within the team, and really get a team out there that can perform all 11 players. Because you can see if we have 5-6 players that are performing at a level, and the rest of the the rest of the team is not really, it's not gonna work like we saw the year before. Even though I'm sure Dom probably worked quite as hard as he did this year, it's also just about finding the right formula, of players and personalities and different ages and different experience levels. It's just like mixing this pot up, and right now it looks like he's found the right recipe for success, because they play with desire, they run for each other. You can tell it looks like they have a great chemistry within the squad. I was up there 3-4 months ago, I think, and just kind of said hello to everybody, with Zach Steinberger and Forrest Lasso as well. We were up there and just connecting with the team, and super, super sweet guys, very ambitious guys, and it just looks like a proper team at the moment. I'm actually going up there again this Thursday to say hi to everybody and just see how things are going. So I'm excited to go up and see Connor as well, which was one of my really good mates when I played at the Rowdies. So I was very happy to see that he came back, and that should be a good strengthening of the team, getting him in. So I'm excited to see how far they can push it.
That's awesome.
They have 9 games left with 9 points.
I believe so.
Ahead.
Yep.
So they gotta be strong, obviously, and then we'll see with the playoffs. That's where it really starts to matter, It's a fantastic job they've done so far over 10 months, and like being number 1 for almost all of season.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't really get no credit for that until playoffs and you win the whole thing. That's kind of how I felt about it. The times that we won the league and we were very successful, like it all matters when it goes into the playoffs, So it will be very interesting to see, but they look like they're strong, and they look ready for it.
Yeah. To your point, you said you're going back up this week to visit with some of the guys. We might have talked about this right before the season started, because I recalled that you mentioned Zach Steinberger. We heard about a number of players kind of being asked to come back to the training facility to talk to some of the guys. I think there were even some like presentations from some of the new players on some of the past players, which I think is incredible, by the way. Just the thought of like, I don't know, like Marco Micheletta doing a school presentation, in the middle of his career in front of everybody. What's that been like? Like being a former player, it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like there's been a very intentional amount of engagement from the club with recent and, past players from the 70s as well. Has that been an effort from, as far as you can tell, from Dominic Casciato, from someone else in the front office? Has it just been like a collective effort to get some of the past guys involved and maybe build some of that culture you mentioned?
I'm pretty sure this is all Dom again. I mean, this is like, there's so much more to coaching than just putting the strongest 11 on the field and hoping that you win, or thinking about formations or who are you going to play against. There's just like, you can do there's so many things about just making persons feel good, feel them motivated, feel like they want to run through a wall for the coach, right? Like you have to get to some sort of, you have to break down some walls with the players and kind of get in to know them a little bit better. And this is, again, just kind of one of his ways to kind of create that culture. There was obviously a strong culture under Neil when he was here, and you could tell we had all of these things on the wall. We did a lot of team bonding together. There was a really strong culture, and we could feel it. But I think when Dom comes in, maybe he's trying to ride on with that wave of Neil's culture and continuing that. But it can definitely be hard, especially with a lot of the players leaving that played under Neil. So it's hard to kind of continue that. So he's probably had to figure out his own way of creating this culture, and it's something that they put a lot of weight on with their coaching license as well. It's like, how do you create a culture? So this is certainly one of his ways to do it, and I think it's worked so far. I think it's great to connect everybody that has been with the Rowdies and the vast history that we have with this club. But also just look at all the success we've had, right? Like, it's possible to do it again. It's possible to do it with a new team. And I think that's what he's showing right now through different ways. But I love it. I love to come up there. I'm happy they invite me up there. I don't just want to go up there all the time. I miss playing, obviously. I miss the locker room. I miss all of that kind of stuff. So it's super, super nice to get an invite and just come up and say hi and just be part of it for a day again,
That's awesome. Before I toss it over to James again, I feel like I'm hogging the conversation, James.
No, you're good. You're good. We're on the same page, roughly.
We mentioned Connor Antley, and I just want to touch on him before we kind of talk a little bit about some of the recent success. I think this is a fascinating part of this, last month of the year. Some injuries on the back line, a lot of shaking up needing to happen with some of the center backs and adjusting formations from Dominic Casciato. You mentioned Connor Antley was a good friend of yours on that squad, particularly thinking about, the success in 2021. As someone who was former teammate with him, what do you think he brings to this roster at this point in the year as a, obviously, former Rowdy himself, but also the talent, maybe some of the experience in MLS? I'm fascinated by this addition in this back portion of the year. So just as someone who has been a former player, what kind of juice does that maybe add to a locker room at this point in the season?
There's no doubt Connor is a fantastic person. He's very, very energetic. He's very, very ambitious young man. I had the pleasure of battling him most of the time for playing time, playing left wing back, right wing back, other positions. So he's a guy that will come in and just push the whole squad to do better. He has very, very high standards for himself, and he's not afraid to kind of call people out and push the limits of his teammates. So it's a fantastic addition. I think he's just on loan for now. I don't necessarily know how long he is on loan for, but I think it's a fantastic addition no matter what. He has so much quality on the field. He's a super athlete. Like, he's fast, he's strong. He showed you can score some really good goals. I thought there was some highlights from back in the day when I saw him score the other day at the Rowdies Stadium. I thought that was me for a second, but no, he's doing really, really well, and he's a great addition to the squad. Coming with a little bit of experience from the MLS as well. So I think he's just going to be better than he was when we saw him the last time at the Rowdies. So I'm so excited to have him back as a good mate, but I'm also happy to have him back on the field and just improve the team, getting ready for playoffs. That's a pretty big big player to bring in right before the playoffs. So great addition, fantastic.
You mentioned his goal, obviously, and that you had competed with him for minutes when you were on the squad. Maybe looking to catch up to your goal scoring, because that was his first goal for the Rowdies, if you can believe it, against Rhode Island. So pretty great goal to see, get the first one in for him.
Good thing he didn't score those goals back when I was there, because that put me on the bench. But
well, he's got some work to do to catch up to you, especially some of the bangers I think of when I think of the Seb Dalgaard highlight reel. James, I'll toss it over to you before I keep rambling here. Talk to us.
Yeah, well, one quick thing that I wanted to get, this was back to a little bit earlier in the conversation, but you mentioned like getting used to it. And Seb, you did not start with the Rowdies in the United States when you came over here, but it doesn't really matter where you go. There's going to be a lot of travel. So I wanted to ask you, coming from Denmark is a comparatively small country, obviously. I mean, surely getting used to like the amount of plane travel that you have to do, that I feel like that is also another factor in terms of like getting everybody kind of on the same page. A lot of the players here, luckily, are more used to that because they've gone through college, at least here. But I feel like that's another factor that does come into play.
Oh man, it's a lot. When you realize how big this country is, especially for me coming from Denmark. I think the longest away trip we have is 4-hour bus ride in Denmark, and that's one that we dread. Like every team dreads it back home if they are from like Copenhagen and they have to go all the way to the western coast of Jutland. That's a tough one. But no, coming over here is just a whole nother battle. Flying commercial, obviously, with everybody on there. Like you don't get the best seats, right? You don't have that much space. Sometimes flying to California, 6-hour flights, like it takes everything out of you sometimes. But it brings that camaraderie, within the squad. I've had some of my best memories traveling with some of the guys from the team, incredible memories, incredible fun times, tough times also, like going away and losing on away trips and traveling back can also can be damaging, in some sort of way. But I think that's essentially why I chose to go to IMG and coach, was that it limits the traveling. Like we stay inside of Florida and we obviously go to some tournaments around the country, but it's not every other week that we are flying to a different state, or 3-4 hour flights and layovers and everything, right? And I think almost the hardest part is the layovers. Like we have slept in, Denver airport. We slept all through the night and flew out the next day, and we stayed there for the whole day, just seeing our plane get delayed until it got canceled. And we slept with the lights on. They gave us these little beach beds, kind of, that sits by the pool or something. And they gave us those, and like, here, you can sleep up here. And it's tough at times, right? It completely wrecks you. But I would definitely love to, at some point, to go back to coach at the USL level or get involved with the Rowdies if I'm still here. But I think it's been very, very good for me to kind of just be able to stay here. Like I understand the sacrifices my wife and my family in general has made for me whenever I have to leave and I have to do all of these things with work. So it's really, really nice to be able to stay around a little bit more and have the weekends a little bit closer to home, and spend some time, spend some quality time doing something different, because I can easily get swallowed up to all of this soccer and just think about it 24/7. But there's so much other things to life, and I feel like I become a better coach also when I'm doing something different and I see different angles into things. So that was a big reason, and it's a good question because the traveling is a lot. I think MLS is a little bit different. They fly, they charter their planes, right? They get
they have changed that now.
But it's a grind, man. It sure is, but it's a lot of fun. You're doing it with the boys at the end of the day. You're not just sitting there by yourself. You're doing it as a team. Everybody's there to help you. So. Yeah,
I very coincidentally, when I was traveling to visit a friend in New York, I think like 2015, 2016, something like that. I will just say this was a time when possibly some more alcoholic beverages were in my weekend activities. But I had missed, pretty much all soccer that was on that weekend because we were traveling. And when we were in the airport, I happened to look over, and there is the entire Vancouver Whitecaps squad. And this was back when Alphonso Davis was there, and it was just like this guy's waiting for, like you said, like normal air travel, waiting like me. My flight was delayed, his flight was delayed. It was it was weird, but that's something that happens.
And all the conversations, we get so many players. Oh, what are you guys up in college basketball or something? We are not big enough for basketball. Come on now. But there's a lot of good experiences about it. I don't want to write it off as all bad. We meet a lot of people out there that are interested in soccer, and you can kind of educate them a little bit and have some good conversations with them, and represent the Rowdies in different facets, So it's not all bad, but it definitely takes a toll on you. That's for sure.
Yeah. You think about just like, sorry, James, I was just thinking about this the other day. We were talking about, the knockout game against Louisville in the Cup. That game was on a Wednesday right after coming back from Orange County. And I've thought about like that travel right after Orange County. You get back and you maybe have a day of rest, and immediately you're back out on the training ground getting ready for the game the next day. It's crazy to think about. And those are some of the times when I'm like, you know what? It's really easy to talk about this game on the podcast on a Tuesday night randomly, and like the physical toll of some of that travel is just insane to think about at times.
Oh man,
it's a good question.
So there's the way that they take care of their bodies and how fit they are is just amazing. Like I was obviously at that point as well when I was playing, but being out of like playing soccer and into coaching, I sometimes play Sunday league here in St. Petersburg with some of my friends, or I play at work once in a while, but I have like 2-3 days of recovery now when I play just for an hour, right? Like my legs are absolutely smoked and my head hurts and my eyes are all red and stuff. So like I do not miss all of the hard work you have to put into that kind to be able to play and enjoy the game. And just give credit to the players for being able to do it for 90 minutes at such a high level, and like.
And in the heat,
teams that come here, in the heat, that's what I mean, right? Like it's no joke, man. Like they're top professionals. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. To return to that team here, you had mentioned it already that we have 9 games left. And I think that the squad has been very good all season. The front office has been pretty damn good as well, bringing in players in these key moments now to try and augment the team when it's facing some difficulties, probably due to the heat and the travel and what have you. So let me ask you, with the prospect of playoffs hopefully coming up, I don't think that we're mathematically assured yet, but I feel like we're pretty good for that. What is the mindset change when you go from the season to the playoffs? Because obviously here playoffs are one and done. You gotta make your way from the first game to the last game, and then if you don't, you don't. It's not accumulation of points like it is everywhere else, where the guy at the top of the table that's the team that wins. So it's got to be some type of mindset change between all of the league games up until you actually get into the playoffs.
I don't know. I mean, it's the pressure, right? It's the pressure. It's the nerves of like, this might be the last game of the season. I think in the league, when you play your games, you are like, no matter the result, you're like, okay, let's start focusing on the next game and be like, okay, what can we improve? What do we do good? What do we not do so good? But as soon as you start entering into playoffs, it's like, there's no thinking about it after. If we lose, we are done, right? Our season is done. So there's definitely a different mindset about like, you get a little bit more anxious, you get a little bit more nervous, you get a little bit more, like you're certainly excited for it because it's also, you can knock another team out and end their season right there, and show that you're better and show that you are supposed to continue your season. But it's also a big downfall if you lose that game, and you can have been the best team the whole year, win the league like we did 2021. We won East and West, and then you can just like lose the final, and then it's just okay. That was that season. We didn't win anything really, but for 10 months we were the best team, So it comes down to just one game all of a sudden. It's a lot of pressure to kind of continue that form that you had through the season, and not show these nerves and like. You want to kind of be that stable team that continues, but there's definitely something that changes mentally when you start to go into the playoffs. I think you also see a lot of the teams that wins it, they get in on the playoffs at the 7th spot or the 6th spot, and then they go and win the whole thing, right? Yeah. And it's maybe because they go into the playoffs with a different mindset of just like, wow, we made it. We actually made it into the last spot of the playoffs. Let's see how far we can go.
Like less pressure, maybe.
Yeah, no pressure. And then your number 1 seed is just like, okay, we have home field advantage. We've been destroying all of these teams all season. We should win these games in some sort of way. But, what if we lose? Our season's over, There's certainly some sort of mentality towards it that can be a little bit hindering. But.
Yeah, I can understand. Carlos, speaking of playoffs, I think that you had a Louisville City mention that you wanted to bring up here, related to a big game that we might have all seen and remembered recently.
Yeah. Prior to the Cup game that I mentioned just a couple minutes ago, we played an incredibly memorable game against Louisville City. Came back from down 3-0. I was watching that game in a bar in Arlington, Virginia, and the whole bar got into this game, and it was awesome. Great advertisement for Rowdies soccer. Maybe not defensively, but it was exciting. There was some, fun kind of just lighthearted debate in the Rowdies circles and the Ralph's Mob circles after that matchup about what was the better comeback. The 5-4 win against Louisville this season, or obviously I'm going to ask you about the 2021 Eastern Conference final comeback, which you stepped on the field for. Maybe you're going to be a little bit biased as a member of one of those teams.
Which is fair.
Which is fair. Any thoughts you want to share to publicly add some fire to one of the sides of this debate?
I was actually at the stadium watching that game. I saw them go down 3-0, and I was like, this reminds me a little bit of last year. I mean, it was not that the Rowdies were playing bad. I feel like they were doing okay in some sort of way. They were controlling a lot of the plays. They were creating some good chances to score. But, I mean, we can also say some absolute bangers from Louisville. Both teams in this game, right? So I wouldn't even blame the defensive unit. There were some fantastic goals, but maybe a little bit too easy at times. But what a comeback. And I think this, again, credit to the squad and credit to that mentality and culture that Dom has inserted into the team for coming back, because they came out second half. I saw him come out to the field and kind of wild up the fans as well. And he takes a big part of how the environment is in the stadium. And I think the fans appreciate it. I think the players can tell that he's very, very passionate about it and he wants to win. So fantastic comeback, fantastic goals. I think Cicerone scored a fantastic goal.
2 of them, yeah.
2 of them, right? Yeah. Wow. And the left back from Louisville scored an absolute fantastic goal as well. First time finish. Right? You can't really do too much about it. But to compare it to the other game we played against Louisville, I think the magnitude of the game is just in a different level. Obviously going into the playoffs and full house at the Rowdies. The fans were going crazy. I would say the fans, maybe half of the fans was there the recent game. So the crowd was obviously also making this a different game in some sort of way. People were crying, people were going crazy back then, right? So you can't really compare those feelings to a normal season game in that sense, but there's certainly some things that you can connect to it, and a fantastic comeback no matter what. I mean, shows that mentality that the players have at the moment. They are top of the league, they are unbeatable in some sort of way. That's probably how they feel at the moment. I know they took a hard loss against Detroit Saturday, but not an easy place to play. But they probably feel those are some of those games that gives you some momentum, that gives you some hair on your chest in some sort of way.
Yeah. To the mentality point, looking ahead, 9 games left in the season. Obviously, 9 points clear in the East, 10 points clear from our closest rival in the West. But New Mexico has 3 games in hand, weirdly. So keep that in mind. But important last stretch here, right? You want to finish strong. You want to go into the playoffs strong. You mentioned mentality. We're talking about both of these comebacks from this season and obviously the playoff game in 21. Do you see, from watching the team this year, from getting to know some of the guys, do you see any parallels here that might make this team up to the task of the 21 team and making that deep run and hopefully going all the way? Do you see any kind of attitude, mentality, talent comparisons here that you feel kind of would put them up against, that 21 team on the best of their days?
Yeah, I think so. I think they might look a little bit younger than we did. I think they have. I mean, they look a little bit more energetic. They look a little bit more young, maybe lacking a little bit more experience. So we'll see how that affects them going into the playoffs. But I think bringing in Connor Handley and obviously having some of the guys that was with us back then as well also is going to help them going into the playoffs. But I think at the moment, I think they look super, super strong. I think they have some very, very great profiles on the team. They have some pace, they have some speed, they have some excitement to them, and I think something that we also saw back when we were back in 2021, 22. So I think it's going to be very, very similar. I think it's just going to be about handling the nerves going into the playoffs, handling the whole everything around it, the whole context of the playoffs going into it, just being cool, being calm, trusting what you've done the whole season and just continuing that process and not trying to change, not trying to do something different, just continue what you've been doing because the magnitude of those games can quickly get up on you and be disturb you in some sort of way, and think that you got to do something different for these games, or you got to do so much more, you got to change your routines or whatever it is. But it's just about trusting the process, trust your coach, trust your teammates. You've been doing it the whole season. You have talent enough to get something out of these games. We've seen that with Cicerone being able to score goals out of nothing. Some of the other guys as well. So there's talent, there's game changers, there's hard workers, there's a good chemistry within the team. Is what I'm seeing. So it's just about continuing and just believing that what's gotten you to the number one seed in the first place is probably gonna be the best way to continue into the playoffs.
Yeah, you mentioned the age of the squad, and this is anecdotally, again, I don't have any numbers to back it, although we could probably figure this out on the side. Pretty young squad, a lot of guys with chips on their shoulders, right? We heard that going into this season. We know that there's a lot of guys coming up from League One to the championship level, maybe trying to prove themselves. And I think going back to what you said earlier about new players coming into a locker room, fighting for minutes and kind of the competitive spirit that comes out, it's so fascinating to see how all of that considered, the new players, the competition for minutes, so many guys with chips on their shoulders. It's so fascinating to see that in spite of that, it seems like there's great chemistry. It seems like there's a great brotherhood amongst this locker room. Great friendships going on, and you see them all celebrating together after every goal. And I think to the Carson Henderlong goal, that was the dagger in Orange County, I believe. James, am I remembering that right?
Yeah, I'll check. Keep going.
Yeah, I'm thinking about Carson Henderlong getting his first league goal. Obviously hard to get minutes when you're up against a guy like MD Myers.
You were correct.
Yeah. It seems like everybody is just so happy for everybody on this team when their success. In that sense, it feels a lot like the great vibes from 2021, where it seemed like there was just a ton of great characters coming together, attitudes coming together, blending together perfectly to build this locker room with obviously a great leader like Neil Collins to kind of lead the charge. So I appreciate that perspective, because I think that's in my head kind of the comparisons I'm thinking about, not just like the soccer, but the attitudes, the energy, the chemistry. It feels similar.
Yeah, certainly. And this is, again, something that, and I agree with you, I think that's what we're seeing, but I think this is also something that could change going into the playoffs, right? Because all of a sudden there's one game, right? You don't want to be on the bench for a playoff game. It might be the last game you're going to play. So I think people are going to start being like, okay, I need to start these games in some sort of way, right? So that can also change up the whole chemistry of the team, if people are starting to be a little bit more individual about this is my game, this is my night in some sort of way, instead of just okay, let's trust the process. The regular season, there's another game. If you're on the bench for that game, there's going to be a game next weekend. I have time to okay, let me get my things together, let me get after it. In the playoffs, might be the last game of the season. So yeah, people are going to have a different mentality towards sitting on the bench or not playing as much, but that'll be interesting to see as well.
Fascinating. James, you got anything you want to throw in here?
No, we have covered everything that I had lined up. So yeah, I'm spent on my questions.
Absolutely. Last question I'll ask you, Seb. Now, be objective. 2021 team on their best day versus 2026 team on their best day. Who wins? 90 minutes, penalties if we have to. Who are you taking?
I have to say 2021. We had some fantastic players, man. Wow. No, we've had some absolute legends of the whole league doing that team. I know there are some there that would probably, like Cicerone has been part of the league for a long time, scored many goals, breaking records here and there. There's obviously some other players, but I think we just all over the field, we just have fantastic players for the USL level, and I think Neil did a fantastic job of recruiting players to kind of join that team that fit together. We had a fantastic chemistry, I still think about the final against Owen County sometimes because it just still doesn't seem true to me in some sort of way.
Right.
We should have crowned ourselves that year and been like, okay, that was a proper team, because it really freaking was. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much. One of the best teams I played on during my time in the US. But talented players, experience that, like, from Europe, experience from so many places, fantastic team. I don't know if I can put anything up against them. I gotta say.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate that. Even if it feels a little biased, I know you're being objective.
Certainly.
This has been great, Seb. As always, great to talk to you. I'm so happy we got to the mid-season-ish check-in. Mid-season would have been middle of the World Cup. There's a lot happening going on.
True.
Yeah,
we're all busy watching soccer.
Yeah. I think we can give ourselves a pass for waiting until the last third of the year. But like I said, as always, pleasure talking to you. I think you have some incredible perspectives as a former professional, but especially as a former Rowdy, and now as a current coach. I hope to see you stick around the Bay Area for a long time. I think fans still have great memories of you, obviously, from your very recent time with the squad. So we love seeing you around Al Lang. So keep coming to the games, and we appreciate the perspective always.
I sure will. Of course, and thank you so much. I appreciate the time you guys take to bring me on here and just talk the game, So big thank you from me. Thank you, guys.
Sure. Absolutely.
And then we can do a check-in maybe right before the playoffs, maybe after the last game.
Yeah.
You can see how the mentality is looking.
I like that.
How they look going into it.
Okay. Stay tuned for that then.
That's a good plan.
Seb said it here first. So, I mean, if he's saying it, has to happen. All right. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thank you.
And that was our interview with Sebastian Dalgaard. Obviously,
it was
great to have him on. He gives us a lot of time, actually, but he's not somebody who also hides from his opinions. He will tell you what he thinks, and he will tell you how well the Rowdies aren't doing. So I think that everybody kind of knows that the Rowdies are doing well, obviously, but there's a little bit more to it. And so it's good to hear his perspective.
Yeah.
Carlos, anything else?
No, just to kind of put a bow on it. I always appreciate Seb's time as a former Rowdy, as a current coach in the youth systems of the Tampa Bay area. I think to your point about him being comfortable sharing what he thinks, I think that's one of my favorite things about having a former player on, right? I think they're more at ease kind of sharing what they think. It's not as maybe always media trained positive because they're employed by the squad by the club currently. He's just giving his opinion as a former player and private citizen in the Tampa Bay area. And I think that's really, really cool. So I always appreciate his perspective as a former Rowdy. He just always has great insight into what a locker room looks like, into how things happen in the Tampa Bay Rowdies organization. He's just a beast, an incredible player as well. So I'm glad he's passing along his experience to the local youth in the Tampa Bay area. And you mentioned he has ambitions in the USL as well, right, in the coaching world. So pretty cool to hear that. And I think it's cool that he's kind of building his coaching resume here in the Bay Area, or there in the Bay Area, I guess. down at IMG. So good for him. Thanks for being on, and we'll try and get him back on the pod right before playoffs start to kind of do a playoff preview of sorts, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, James, I think we can skip extra time for now. This is going to be a long podcast, all things considered, but not a ton of news happening in the broader USL world anyway, other than my favorite story of the weekend, which was, again, Birmingham Legion having to rewatch their entire game against Sporting Jacks right after they played it.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Shout out to Sporting Jacks to making it to double digits. They're on 11 points now. Good for them. Thank you, everybody, for listening. This has been another episode of the RBLR Sports podcast. James and I are here every week talking Rowdies for all of you. So I hope you enjoy. Follow us at RBLR Sports on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Threads, anywhere you get social media doom scrolls. We're there. I'm at Carlos GP810 on Twitter. James is
at RBLR James K.
And like and subscribe to the podcast. Like I said earlier, you can get the full experience on YouTube, see our faces, see Seb Dalgaard's face for the interview on the YouTube world. You can see us in our little boxes here. But if you like the audio version, subscribe to us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your pods. We are there. James, it was another week of Rowdy soccer. We're still playing soccer. We're still top of the league. Don't take it for granted. This team is special. There's something special brewing at Al Lang Stadium. Hopefully, we don't stack up that weird loss in Detroit with another one in Pittsburgh. Let's try and get a big result this weekend and get out to the next Rowdies home game, guys. September 5th, after this game against Pittsburgh, be back at Al Lang against Brooklyn. So for one more week of Rowdy soccer and a great interview with Seb Dalgaard. Come on, you Rowdies.
Come on, you Rowdies.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.